We're midway through fall camp. The 2022 season is right around the corner. We've got Indy Sooner. That's right. JP is joining us to talk all things Sooners on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation, and welcome to Locked On Sooners. I'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official college football recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Thank you for joining us. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at thesoonerswire.com. And joining me as he does every day is Josh Helmer of 94.7 The Ref in Norman. You can also hear him Monday through Friday from 9 to noon and follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. What's up, Josh?
What is going on? How we doing? Excited for our guest tonight, someone that has, similar to his co-host over there of the JP and Trav Show, Indy Sooner has kind of taken Sooner Twitter by storm. Indy Sooner, JP, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up? What's up? I appreciate the kind words on the intro. Just say, I'm on my buddy's coattails. I'll just say that, he's kind of had a high trajectory and just been gracious to bring me along. So I'm honored that you guys would have me on the show tonight and excited to talk some Sooners football.
Yeah, man. Well, I've been a big fan of your stuff, and I've definitely included a lot of your social media reactions in some of my stuff over at Sooners Wire. It's been a lot of fun to kind of see you reacting and interacting with the Texas Longhorns fan base. So it's been a wild offseason, man. Just I feel like it's kind of just yesterday, but it's also been 9 months ago when Brent Venables took over as the head coach for the Oklahoma Sooners. So just so far in the Brent Venables era, what's kind of been your biggest takeaway of his current tenure, like the early tenure of Brent Venables?
Yeah, really just the togetherness that seems to be amongst all of Oklahoma football. Obviously, you can say the players and coaches, but obviously the fans too. I mean, when you get 70,000+ at a spring game, I think that says something, and that starts you off right. And even just to hear from some of the recruits that Trav and I have talked to, and obviously even that Trav has talked to, that he's let me know just how excited they are about what OU's doing, especially with their sole mission. I have a personal relationship with two players. They're both freshmen, Grayson Halton and Brady Braun. Brady was a local product out of Indianapolis, and crazily enough, Brady's best friend is I'm an athletic director, and a senior softball player from me that was at my school last year is dating Brady's best friend. And so not only is he from Indianapolis, but I have a personal connection with Brady as well. And then Grayson, some of you guys probably saw, I dance occasionally, and Grayson kind of started to dance, and somebody said, "Hey, Andy Sooner, he's trying to steal your thunder." And I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity for Grayson specifically to kind of brand himself with Sooner Nation. And so I said, hey, let's go back and forth. I DM'd them. Let's do this dance battle. We did 3 or so. May have more coming. I don't know. I'm trying to let them focus on fall camp. But anyways, getting back to what I was saying, both of them have just said that, the family atmosphere, the familial atmosphere that Brent Venables has created, and how much he cares for them, yet pushes them to be the best that they can be, it is truly amazing for OU. So I'm really excited about what Brent Venables has brought to the table. I always said that, he's somebody that his floor is being really successful, because it's a guy that for 30 years, right, has been under 3 different Hall of Fame coaches: Bill Snyder, Bob Stoops, and Dabo Swinney. We know is going to be in the Hall of Fame. So his floor is definitely success, and I think his ceiling could be one of the best in the game.
JP, because of your involvement and your history just as an athletic director in sports, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. For so long, Brent Venables, right, was kind of a white whale of sorts of college college sports, right? I mean, for college football, is this guy ever going to take a head coaching gig? Is he ever going to actually be a head football coach? And then obviously we know how the story ends. He winds up at Oklahoma. And, one of the reasons that he said that it really didn't work out for him, or in his mind, it didn't work out in terms of taking the job at Auburn, was he just wasn't really aligned with the administration from the top down. So from your perspective, when you hear Brent Venables say that, just given your experiences in life, I mean, what does that mean, what Brent Venables is talking about when he says the importance of having that type of relationship from the top down?
Yeah, I mean, it is so important as a coach to have the backing of your administration. I always tell my head coaches, I have your guys' back, right? I mean, unless you do something just comically stupid, right, then I can't. But other than that, like whether it comes to parents, whatever else that may happen. Obviously, I'm at the high school level, but you got to be aligned. You got to have somebody that is for you, and that's going to set you up for success. Because if they're not, then why would you put yourself in that situation, right? And so I think it really showed the commitment that Joe C. And the Board of Regents had for Brent Venables. And I said this on the JP and Trav Show right when everything was happening. They were out to make noise. They were upset with the way that Lincoln Riley left, right? It's like, this is Oklahoma. Like, people don't do this to us, dog. Like, and so I think that really more than ever made them feel like, you know what, this coach that comes in here, they're going to get the entire farm. And I think Brent Venables, we've seen, have done that with the support staff he's brought in, the analysts that he's had, down to obviously the recruiting gurus that he's brought in and different stuff like that. So, alignment is absolutely crucial. Otherwise, you end up like our boys south of the Red River.
Yeah, it seems like that's one of those jobs down there that you never have any job security really when you're coaching at Texas. I mean, even year one, it seems like after one season, Sark was like, all right, Sark's on the hot seat now, like 2 years into a contract. You're like, what? Like, how does that even work? Yeah. And so I think, the alignment, just having the trust of the administration is huge and it's key. And I think that was why it was such a slam dunk, really an easy hire for Joe C., for Joseph Harraz, to target Brent Venables. It's like they had familiarity with the guy. He was an Oklahoma guy for 10 plus years. It just made a lot of sense, and the timing was absolutely right. And I think a lot of times it's just timing can get in the way. And whatever happened to align the cosmos up in such a way that Oklahoma ended up with Brent Venables, I mean, that you just count your lucky stars. Sometimes the best deals are the ones that don't get made, and him not going to Auburn is by far one of the best things that didn't happen to Oklahoma. So we're going to have more with JP. We're going to have more 10,000-foot view on the Oklahoma Sooners. We're going to talk about what happened with TD Roof and how that might impact the linebacker room. But first, I'm going to talk to you about LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs is the place to go for all of your hiring needs. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality and hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, JP. So we got more kind of big picture view on the Oklahoma Sooners. As we go into 2022, kind of what are some of your, like, it doesn't have to necessarily be results oriented, but just kind of expectations for this team and how it looks in Brent Venables' first year at the helm?
Yeah. I expect them to be uber competitive at the very least. I expect them to fight their tails off, right, and to not be have defensive starters taking things off in the fourth quarter, as we heard in some games last year, right? I expect them to be full force going into this year. I said personally, I feel like their ceiling is 11-1. Obviously, it could be 12-0, but I got to throw a loss in there at some point. I think the floor is 8-4. I think that's a worst case scenario, in my opinion. But I don't see that happening. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Jeff Levy's offense. I think I can personally. I feel like we're going to get a really good defense just from Brent Venables, even in his first year. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be top 15, but I could certainly see top 30, right? Just with everything that we've been hearing. God willing, hopefully everybody is healthy. I know we're going to talk about T. Roof here in a little bit, but hopefully we don't have any other injuries happen that will affect that. But I think we know what we're going to get from BV. But I'm interested to see what Jeff Levy's going to do. I really have high hopes for him and the fast-paced tempo offense he's going to run. Definitely would like to see a lot of our running backs that we have in stables, because I know he likes to use a ton of them. And the other thing I'll say is I'm excited to see how the offensive line looks after having Schmitty for a summer, and just the difference that makes.
Yeah, we saw that comment or heard, read, saw all, whichever way you want to describe it. Andrew Rame saying, basically, we've got more out of 6 months with Schmitty than I got in 2 years out of Benny Wiley. So we're going to see, right? I mean, that's going to ultimately get decided. What I've said with John here and on other platforms is, hey, I love that. That excites me. I love seeing Andrew Rame say that. But ultimately, I guess the proof kind of winds up being in the pudding, JP, right? I mean, it's, hey, how do second halves now play out for Oklahoma? How do fourth quarters play out for Oklahoma? And what you were talking about with Jeff Levy, it's, hey, I want to see Jeff Levy in this offense and Andrew Rame lump it all together. I want to see them suck the life out of opponents. I want to see them be okay turning and handing off in the fourth quarter and second halves against opponents in the Big 12 and beyond, and winning football games that way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, looking forward to some smash mouth football in the fourth quarter, being able to use his stable of backs, like we said, and know that that's what he's going to go through. Hopefully, he can lean on Eric Gray, Marcus Major, right? Maybe get some Javante Barnes, hopefully, if he's healthy in there. And I know Gavin Sawchuk has been making some waves too. So, we'll see. But yeah, no, I agree. I think being able to have huge fourth quarters moving forward and put teams away rather than allow them to stay close is something that I'm looking forward to seeing.
How do you view the running back position? I mean, you talked a little bit about it there. Like, where do you stand with Eric Gray, Marcus Major? How do you see the running back situation for OU?
Yeah, I mean, I think Eric Gray is the guy. I think that he's the most versatile. A lot of DeMarco Murray. DeMarco obviously said his ideal running back is somebody that's like him, right? So I'm not saying Eric Gray. If he has a season that DeMarco had, like in 07, then I'm cool with that, right? But my gracious co-host Trav is he's not a Marcus Major guy. Now, not that he thinks that Marcus is not talented, and we've said this, but just it's been all hype for almost 3.5, 4 years, and we haven't seen it. Right, so it's kind of, you got to show me something at this point. We've seen spurts, but to have him show it to us, hopefully he can do that this year. And I'm excited about Gavin Sawchuk. I mean, I was excited about Javante Barnes, don't get me wrong, but to hear the noise that Gavin Sawchuk has been making in just literally a month and a half or so is kind of cool. It's like, I expect him to be good, but they're really raving about him. So I'm excited to see what they can do. And obviously you have Toby Walker kind of rounding up that group of a good running back there. So
Yeah, Travis isn't alone on the let's slow down on Marcus Major. Josh is on that train as well. I'm all aboard the Marcus Major hype train, though. So when Josh and Travis try to get on sometime mid-season, I'm going to say no and just kick them right off the tracks. So I agree with you. I think we do need to see more from him. I just, man, the spurts that I've seen, I'm like, okay, once this guy can put it together, give him 5 to 10 handoffs. If he's your closer in the fourth quarter, like I kind of picture like a poor man's Marion Barber from the Dallas Cowboys, just this guy that's going to be able to punish teams late in games. Will it happen? I don't know, but man, I really hope it does. I really hope it does, because we've seen the glimpses of, just potentially great production out of him. At the, just considering the rest of the offense, we know Marvin Mims is going to be one of the starters. Theo Weiss will probably start at wide receiver as well. What do you think they're going to do out of the slot? Who are you kind of projecting, or who do you think is going to be that third wide receiver for this team?
I think Drake Stoops is probably that guy in the slot. I think he's been definitely reliable enough to put there over these last 2 to 3 years. I think he's proven that he's not just a namesake, but he's a legit receiver in this receiver room. And I think he's probably one of the guys that has some of the surest hands too. So, we may see him in a Wes Welker type of role. And I'm, personally for me, I'd love to see him be able to get a shot in the league here soon, and just be able to use his route running. And again, his hands that will, prove it for him. But I do wonder if they're going to use Mims in the slot a lot too. If they're going to kind of move him out, maybe put a Weiss or Farouk and then Mims in the slot and let Mims go ham at times. I'm sure Jeff, will mix that up. But if we're having Mims and Weiss on either side of each other, I could definitely see Drake being that third receiver in the slot, especially on third downs to move the chains.
How big of a factor do you think one or both freshman wide receivers are going to be? Because, man, I hear and I put a lot of stock into what Teddy Lehman over there on the Rush has to say. I mean, when he starts talking about Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson and, oh my, look out these freshmen, it's like, okay, well, I saw the star ratings, but in freshmen, wide receivers, we've seen that at Oklahoma, JP, where guys come in. I mean, recently, CeeDee Lamb, right, is a name that comes to mind right there. So we've seen it before, but where do you kind of see those two fitting in for OU?
Yeah, I mean, that just proves the wide receiver depth will be okay moving forward, right? But I think that you could probably see them get some burn early in games. I think they're going to be working from behind just because of the experience that a Theo Weiss, a Marvin Mims, obviously, and the Drake Stoops has, and even Jalil Farouk, with how he closed out last year and the spring and summer that he's had as well. But Jaden Gibson specifically, that's just he's different than any receiver we have on the roster by far, right? And again, not that Nick's not very talented, because he is. I'm sure he's doing good things in his own right, but be 6'5" like Jaden is, and to run the way he does, that's something that you can't teach. So that's the mold. If he ends up getting some burn in important games this year.
We got to talk some defense. Before we get you out of here, I know that we're kind of rainbows and sunshine and it's all positive, baby. But we do got to, I think, at least ask you, okay, like, what's your hang up or two with this team? Before we, obviously get out of here, let's talk some defense as well. Real quick, let me tell you, imagine this. You're hanging out with some friends, putting back a couple of cold drinks. A few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head their separate ways, you think of calling for a ride, but you say to yourself, nah, I live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job. What about you total your car, you kill someone? Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads. That's to save lives. So Everybody drive sober or get pulled over. You guys know the drill out there. JP, so we've talked plenty of offense for Oklahoma. What about the defensive side of the football? How excited are you about what Oklahoma has up front? They're obviously replacing a lot, but what excites you about what Oklahoma does have up front on the defensive line?
And I am the leader of the Ethan Downs fan club. I am a big guy for him. Just saw some things out of him last year, just as a true freshman. And then I'm like, man. And then you add Smitty to that mix, and then you add Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis to that mix to be able to coach those guys. I'm excited about him specifically. I'm really excited about Jeffrey Johnson. Just bringing some experience, and we know what he did against us when he was at Tulane, and just moving our guys out of the way all the time. I'm excited to see what Reggie Grimes does as well. Jalen Redmond, hopefully he stays again healthy. That's kind of been his kick throughout his career. But man, I think we have some dudes on this line, guys. I think we're going to be able to see them do a lot of good stuff. Marcus Stripling is obviously the name that everybody's hearing about. He just seems to be killing it in camp. And so, I know Trav last week said that he expected Mark to have 10 sacks, maybe something like that. And, that if we get that out of him and, we get 7 or 8 out of Ethan, and, get some from the guys in the middle like Kel Gilliam, Jeffrey Johnson, Trav's boy JK, Josh Kelly. I think we have more dudes than some people would like to think we have on the defensive line.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment. I think this is a group, especially on the edge, that's just kind of been biding their time, right? 2 years ago, they were sitting behind Ronnie Perkins and Nick Bonito and Isaiah Thomas. Last year, it was Bonito and Thomas. And now they're going to get their opportunity to shine. I think the trio that you mentioned, Downs, Grimes, and Stripling, I think they're going to blow up, man. They're going to be putting a lot of people on notice this year. And I've been as excited as anybody probably about Marcus Stripling since the Alamo Bowl, dude. What he did to Oregon, I mean, he's just a game wrecker. And after an offseason with Jerry Schmidt, I think that's going to take that to a whole nother level. Now let's turn to the linebackers a little bit. TD Roof, it was announced or mentioned by Brent Venables in his Tuesday media availability that TD Roof will be out for the season with a biceps injury. He wasn't projected to start, but I think that if we don't recognize that he was a valuable piece of that linebacker depth chart, especially how we could consider the special teams units as well, it's a loss. But what does it do for the linebacker room? Because, I mean, probably not going to start, but it's going to create opportunities for some people. So who's going to be kind of next up after maybe a Deshaun White, David Agwebu, Danny Stutzman? Like after that, who's going to get the next opportunity?
Oh, absolutely. The first thing that comes to my mind is Shane Whittier. He's somebody that's been well documented the last couple of years as being one of the fastest guys on the team. And so to be able to provide speed at that position is very, very important. But obviously, his thing was just being able to make sure his keys were right and not overrunning plays, which we've seen over the years. But, I trust anybody to get that fixed as Brent Venables, right? And obviously Ted Roof being somebody that's been with Brent for a couple of years and knows his system in and out. Jaron Kinnick is another guy that I've just been hearing is getting some burn at the linebackers position in particular. And so that may be somebody that also will get an opportunity with the TD Roof being out. But those are the two names I would personally be looking for is Shane Whittier and Jaron Kinnick.
How the heck is Oklahoma going to sort this secondary out? I mean, they got two guys that we feel pretty good about, right, at the cornerback position in both DJ Graham and obviously Woody Washington. They've got some safeties we think that we feel pretty good about in both Billy Bowman and Key Lawrence. And then just all of these transfers that OU's brought in. I mean, I think they've added some serious talent in terms of the transfers. And, oh, by the way, somebody we thought was gone, and Justin Harrington, he's back. And so how does all of this kind of come together in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have, right? Because for years, it seemed like we were begging for secondary depth. And so, we shorted up with guys like Kenai Walker, guys like C.J. Colden, Trey Morrison, and then, not to mention guys that are on the roster that were high four-star guys like a Jaden Davis, like a Josh Eaton, that some people forget about. But those two I know specifically have been doing well in fall camp. And so, when you add that all together, obviously it's a problem to try to find where you piece people who's on a too deep and where. But again, man, what a great problem to have. And for Jay Valai just to be able to coach those guys up and see what he can do. I'm excited about Justin Harrington, man. We always were excited about him, and the fact that he's back with his staff, and that he wanted to come back and be a part of everything, and that he seems to be doing pretty well, and maybe we'll be at that illustrious cheetah position will be fun to see.
Yeah, it's a team that, while it has some questions on both sides of the football, it still seems like a team that's pretty well talented. And so just looking at it, just big picture view, and really, if you want to give a prediction, you can. Do you see this team making the Big 12 championship game?
I do. I think Baylor is the only team that makes me kind of nervous. Kansas State will be good. I'm not sure what they'll be on offense. Adrian Martinez, obviously, not that he's not talented, he's definitely a good quarterback, but nothing special that we haven't seen or anything like that. I'm not gonna lie. Again, as much as I will talk down on Texas, what they had offensively, was kind of like, I wonder. But their offensive line is still trying to be pieced together. Obviously, they've had some injuries. Obviously Isaiah Nayor unfortunately got injured as well, and so they still have talent. But defensively, if their defense is anything like they were last year, that's not something to even fret at. So when you look over the whole landscape of the Big 12, I think it's worse than it's been in a little bit. Obviously, Baylor and Kansas State are some of the better teams in there, but Iowa State probably won't be as good as they've normally been. West Virginia will be decent. Kansas is Kansas. Texas Tech will be okay, but nobody I'm genuinely worried about. So I do see us making the Big 12 championship game, and hopefully winning it, and maybe even potentially getting to the playoff.
Poor Jayhawks fans. I mean, there's never been anything truer that's been said. Kansas is Kansas. I mean, there's nothing else that needs to be said there about the Jayhawks.
This is fact.
So, teased it a little bit earlier. Obviously, I think all three of us are in agreement. I think Oklahoma's going back to the Big 12 championship game, too. I still think they're the most talented team in this conference, and I think they're going to win this conference before it's all said and done. But, okay, you got your finger to the trigger there. What gives you a little cause for pause with Oklahoma?
I think just not knowing what you're going to see. That's probably what will give me the most pause. And again, I think defensively, Brent has been so proven over 30 years. I think we can at least bank on the defense being good. I'm not saying elite. I think it will get there to elite. If it is elite this next year, then college football better watch out. But it will at least be good. Now, Levy, I think the offense is what I'm intrigued to see. And I know he did great at Ole Miss at top 5 offense in the SEC. And obviously you want to see that translate, and you would think it would with better talent at OU. But again, we just need to see it fleshed out. So I think that's the one thing that will give me pause. Obviously, it's something that's giving these national writers pause, even though they're not really paying attention. They think that, you lost Lincoln Riley, you lost Caleb Williams, you lost all these 5-star athletes. You guys are going to be and it's like, okay, I don't think we're going to be that much worse off, if not, the same. Some might say better, just based off of the last couple years, at least, of if you compare Levy and Riley's offenses, they're pretty similar, if not, Levy's being a little bit better in a tougher conference. So that's the one thing I think that would give me pause, and just seeing maybe Brent's decisions in games, head coaching decisions in games.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing that we're all excited to see. I mean, we'll get our first glimpse of it against UTEP on September 3rd when Oklahoma welcomes the Miners to a drubbing unlike any other. I think that football team is going to be excited to put the talking to bed and actually go show some things on the field. So, JP, man, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. Y'all make sure you go check out the JP and Trav Show. You can find it on YouTube. You guys are podcasts as well. You're on all platforms on the podcast side too.
Yeah, as well. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and we do our live show on YouTube, and then we'll upload it the next day.
All right, very cool.
I got one more if I can, John, before we get out of here.
Sure.
The JP and Trav Show. So, what was the genesis of it, and how cool is it to get to do the show, man?
Oh man, yeah. So, I did a live stream probably last, I don't know, I want to say maybe early September. It was right around when the season started. I don't know if you guys know Around the Table Sports, Ty Hayes at all. He's somebody that has like 10K or something like that on YouTube, but he's a good friend of mine, and he had me on a couple of his shows. And so I was like, you know what, let me do a live stream, just see how it goes. Use the StreamYard platform, and I did. I did it solo one week, and it went well. And Trav and I have been speaking a little bit, kind of kindling our friendship and everything, and said, hey, you want to come on a live stream? And he's like, yeah. We just vibed and connected, and everybody was like, oh, you should have Trav back on again. So I had him on the next week, and then we just kept doing it, and it just kind of turned into the JP and Trav Show. And then really it really exploded when Lincoln left, because, and I always tell this story, I'll never forget. Obviously, everybody's upset. 10 a.m. Sunday morning after a Bedlam loss, you find out Lincoln's going to USC, and you're like, what's happening? So me and Trav are on the phone, and we're talking about it. We're like, this is crazy. And then he tells me, JP, what am I going to do about my smokers? And I realize his smokers are at Lincoln's house. Because, right, Trav, smoked some tomahawks for them at the Champion Barbecue the year before. And so Trav lives in Tulsa, obviously. So he's like, you know what, instead of me lugging these big smokers 2 hours to Norman, let me leave them in your garage. And Lincoln says, that's great, Trav, because we're going to do it again. And Lincoln leaves to Southern California and doesn't have any plans to give Trav his smokers back. And Trav hears nothing. So since when that happened, everybody was coming over. And then, you had OU Rumors and News on Twitter as well. So it was like a double up. We'd be doing like OU Rumors and News for an hour. Then you come over to the JP and Trav Show. And so, we were blown out of then. And we still had a consistent fan base since then. But, it's been so cool to do that with Trav. He's my real life homie. We talk occasionally, or not even occasionally, a lot. And so just to be able to do that with him on Wednesdays is just so fun. And it's just natural, and so it's awesome to see what it's turned into.
Yeah, it's always fun to see people thriving in the content creator space, and for you guys, continued success for your show. And y'all make sure you go follow JP over on Twitter at Indy_Sooner, especially if you like some Texas shade being thrown. He's one of the assassins on there, so make sure you go check that out. And go follow the JP and Trav Show on YouTube as well. I'm sure you can find that. Just do a little search on that and you'll find it. Subscribe to their show. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Special thanks to JP for jumping on the show. We appreciate it, man. All the insight and your thoughts. We'll have you back sometime during the season as well to just see where we're at and reevaluate the Oklahoma Sooners landscape at that time. But until next time, he's Josh Helmer. He's JP. I'm John Williams. We'll catch you then. Boomer Sooner.